All right. So this is a boot camp for BSC 1005, 2010. Honestly, any biology course that you're taking. So the way that I'm going to structure this is I want to go over first the importance of learning commons. I mean, a lot of people don't know about the learning commons, or if you do, it's good to review, and I'm here to let you know like all the different ways that we can help you out. Okay, so I'd like for you to be able to identify 3 ways that you can use the learning commons to help you succeed by the end of this. Kind of the big meat of this, like the big thing that I would like you to take out is figuring out 3 ways that you can maximize your success in a biology course, especially like how to start off the course well and to set yourself up for success during the semester. And then I just have a generic question. I'm going to go over basically what is biology and kind of different ways that we can study biology. All right. So did you have any questions before we got rolling here?
No, sir, I don't have any questions at all. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So learning commons himself, we are open in person from 7:30 to 7:30 Monday through Thursday, and you can come in for either in-person tutoring or virtual tutoring during those hours. And then on Friday from 7:30 to 5 p.m. Sometimes people get mixed up, think that we're open till 7:30 on Fridays, or don't realize that we're open until 7:30 the rest of the week, think that we close at like 4 or 5 during the week. Okay. But we are open during these hours for tutoring, for computer access, for printing, whatever. It's different things that we provide at the Learning Commons. I kind of think about it as what resources do we provide? And the big thing is tutoring. Okay, we have personnel, we have people that provide tutoring to you. So you can come in and get help with different assignments, with study strategies, with how to access Canvas, like how to succeed, like so many different things. Literally just come in and we can help you out with whatever it is. We have success coaches who are not geared towards a specific subject area, but they are involved with helping with time management, test anxiety, work-life balance, avoiding procrastination, reducing stress. Like I feel like anybody can use a success coach. Okay, I mean, I could use one. You're an A/B student, you can use it. They just help with streamlining your experience, with decreasing stress and making you more efficient. Okay, we have computers. A lot of people have laptops, but whether or not you have one, you might forget to bring it or whatever. We have computers with internet access here that honestly work reasonably fast. And we have resources and handouts for multiple different subject areas. I have fewer handouts for biology than other subjects, but I do have a few, okay? And at the beginning of this, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Chris McDonald. I'm the science specialist at Learning Commons. I'm full-time, whereas the rest of the tutors are part-time, but everybody's really qualified, okay? You can access printing, and then we have a room dedicated to honor lock testing. And because a lot of people, they might not have internet access, they might have bad internet access, they might have a computer share with somebody else. This helps with or you might have like a household where you've got family coming in and out, brothers and sisters, kids, parents, whatever, which can be a distraction. You might have roommates, and so it's a distraction-free, quality internet location to do your honor lock testing. You just have to make sure that you come in at least like an hour and a half before we close. So like around 6 p.m., before 6 p.m. Monday through Thursday, and before like 3:30 on Fridays, just so that we're not having to rush you out in the middle of you trying to take an exam. Okay. So I mentioned live tutoring. That's kind of thing that you think about a lot, but we also have virtual tutoring. You can sign in through EagleQ online, and you'll end up getting a phone call from a receptionist. And if you're in line, they'll tell you that you're in line and approximately what the wait is, approximately, and tell you to expect an email. In that email, you're going to get a link to a Zoom session where you can do online tutoring sessions. So, I think that a lot of times in-person tutoring, it's easier, like it can be more productive. There are a lot of times are technical issues with virtual tutoring and stuff. And sometimes maybe we want to see work and different stuff you're doing. You have to hold it up to the screen and it can be kind of a mess. It depends. Okay. But a lot of times in person is better if you can, but virtual, can do it from the comfort of your home. It's nice. Okay. In addition to that, there's Brain Fuse. This is not a TCC this is not a Learning Commons resource. These are not Learning Commons tutors. This is something though that's provided through your tuition. It's a tutoring service that you can get tutoring outside of our operating hours. You have a couple of hours, I think, through your tuition. I don't know how many that you can take advantage of. But again, these aren't TC tutors. They're going to know the subject area, but they're not going to be as familiar with the specific courses necessarily. Okay. So we have a website, and a lot of people aren't familiar with it, or I haven't been to it. So I like to share it so that y'all can see what it looks like. Okay. I did the direct link here, but if you go from the home page, there are multiple ways that you can access our website. You can go into resources, and then you've got Learning Commons here. You can scroll under academics, you go to Learning Commons. Those are two of the easiest ways if you don't have the direct link. Okay, I'm not going to go over the whole website, but we've got resources for pretty much any subject. Show you what it looks like for science. I gotta fix this. This is I think somebody messed with this. So yeah, this got messed up. I'm gonna have to fix that. But we do have the biology resources. Actually, it's not messed up. I had been clicking on the biology earlier, so I hadn't seen the anatomy and physiology. But the biology is set up well. We have the resources here. Not a ton of them, but enough. And I got resources for chemistry, different healthcare professions. So like our hard copies of resources, you can also access online. And then you can also access the online tutoring by clicking on this button that I clicked on, join the EagleQ waitlist. And so it's not showing it right here, but there will be boxes that you can fill in your name, your email address, and then it's going to put your name in our queue, and then that's when we can call you and touch base with you. If you're confused about the process, you can always call us during the day and we can guide you. Okay. So this is for physical tutoring. We are separated into first and second floors, more or less. First floor generally deals with math and different physical sciences, chemistry and physics. You'll do biology tutoring sometimes downstairs, but a lot of times we're going to direct you upstairs to the anatomy and physiology room, because our tutors that do anatomy and physiology are also our biology tutors. Okay. I might tutor you sometimes downstairs just because this is where my office is and where I end up being a lot of times, but we've got this whole room upstairs that sometimes people aren't familiar with. We've got models, it's got study areas, we've got computers. I think it's a wonderful area. I love it. And even if you don't need help from a tutor necessarily, it's a good study area. Success coaching. I mentioned this before. Our success coaches, you can do drop-in sessions with them, either virtually or in person. They are part of the Learning Commons, but their offices are actually on the second floor of the library if you physically visit. I highly recommend taking advantage of them, even if you don't know what you need help with, just kind of being like, hey, I want to make sure that I'm successful during the semester. I would recommend going to your professor before success coaches. Okay. But success coaches have specific things that they can help you with in terms of organization, time management, work-life balance, test anxiety, and so on. Okay. For everybody, it can be a little bit of a different thing. We've all got different strengths and weaknesses, and so they can help fill in those gaps. I showed you Eagle Q already. Now, tips for success in a biology course. When you start off, some of the things that some of the first things I would do is get onto Canvas, figure out how to get onto Canvas if you don't. Find your course on Canvas. Regrettably, it's not going to be open until first day of class, Monday for y'all. But I would find that course and I would look through it, find all the resources that are on there and try to familiarize yourself with the course. And then familiarize yourself with the email, not just Canvas messages, but the actual Outlook email. Okay. Otherwise, you're going to be missing important information. Okay. So your actual email is going to look something like this. Okay. That's the Outlook. Canvas messages, that's going to be something like it says inbox here, but this is separate. This is only communication through Canvas. Okay. And if you're only checking this, you're missing a lot of information. Multiple different ways that you can access it. My TCC is one way. Change the format. Let me make sure that it's easy to get to. For maybe not. I know you can get to it this way. I'm not as familiar with the new My TCC. Here we go, student resources. There we go. Okay, so you can get to Canvas and email this way. All right, so click on email and it'll get you there. The way that I usually get there is I go to the homepage and I go into resources, and then you can click on email. And then you also got Canvas here. Okay. I would check that once a day during the week and once during the weekend. That's generally the expected, that's the general expectation for students and for teachers, reasonable expectation. when you get into Canvas, your courses should be, like when you click on courses, should be listed here. And you can go into the course itself, and I would familiarize myself with what resources are on here. Now, there might be a lot of stuff. Like you can see on this course of mine that I'm teaching, I have a lot of stuff listed here. So it's wise for my students to kind of skim through and figure out what's relevant and not. Like a lot of this is like stuff related to Honor Lock and stuff that I'm advertising the Learning Commons. But then we get stuff relating to TCC resources before I even get into the material itself here. And then I have like slides posted. I have a checklist of like how to, like suggestions for timing on when to do things, and study guide as well. So not all teachers are going to have this. Different teachers are going to have different resources posted. I would familiarize myself as early as possible with what is on there. I can't tell you how many times I have students come in saying like, I have no idea what's going on. Teacher doesn't have slides posted, etc. And then I literally, or like no study guide, etc. And I can go in and I can find those exact things. So sometimes it's just from lack of knowledge of how to navigate through Canvas, but try to be familiar with Canvas, how to access the resources, and make sure you're checking your email regularly. Professor's office hours. For certain classes, you're more inclined to show up to office hours. Certain math classes, I see it a lot. With chemistry, biology, I don't see it as much. But there's a lot that you can get out of office hours. Your teacher, most of your teachers want you to show up. Okay. Something I would do early in the semester is show up to office hours, let your teacher know that you're probably going to show up, because otherwise they might wander off and do other things. That you're going to show up and kind of, ask questions, something along the lines of like, how can I maximize my success in your course? Like, what can I do in order to make sure that I am successful? And a lot of teachers, they're going to know the way that their course is paced. They're going to know the way it's structured. They're going to know the resources that they've given, and they're going to be able to kind of help streamline your efforts and guide you. Okay. And if you kind of follow up with them occasionally, it helps out. And plus, you're getting FaceTime, which looks good. You look like a proactive student. You are a proactive student. I'm not saying you look like one, but you are a proactive student. And just from a subjective standpoint, that reflects positively on you. If your teacher posts slides, like lecture slides, know how to access them. Sometimes teachers, if they post slides, they don't post them until after they've used them in class, but still be familiar with how to use them, with how to access them, because you're going to want to use them for when you study. Okay. Know how to access your textbook. For pretty much any class, I think all your classes, you're going to have an online textbook. You can have a hard copy of it, but you're going to have an online version of it. And this is something that I'll see early in the semester. I see a lot of issues with people accessing them, like McGraw-Hill, Pearson. They're going to often have assignments associated with them. You're going to have to get some sort of code that you're probably going to have to pay for in order to access them. So I would try to get those things lined up as quick as possible, understand how to access the assignments, how to navigate through the textbook itself. Some classes are going to use OpenStax or some other open access resource. And again, you want to be familiar with how to navigate through it. Like with OpenStax, which I have here, I have the link. So first of all, you would have to find that link, and then I understand how to navigate through and find the different chapters and where the information is and so on. Okay. Again, it kind of depends on the structure of your teacher's class, whether they post slides or not, and so on. Is there a study guide? Is there not? These are things you can work with your teacher, you can work with us based off of the structure of the class. Every biology class is going to be a little different, okay? But understanding how to access your textbook, how to use it, that is something important to try to knock out early in the semester, as early as possible, okay? If your teacher posts slides, look at them ahead of time. This is something that I didn't start doing until late in my undergraduate career, but it helps tremendously because there's a lot with science classes in particular. There's a lot of technical material. There's a lot of vocabulary. It's like learning a new language. And you got to get the vocabulary down first before you can start putting things in context, before you can start understanding the entirety of what you are looking at. And so, I'm not saying read it and like understand it and learn it, but before you run, before you do exercise, you're going to stretch, you're going to warm up in a lot of ways. It's the same thing with your mind. You can't just go in cold, okay? Especially with a science class. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're just going to end up there dictating words that you don't even understand, probably misspell them and all sorts of stuff. And you're going to back look at your notes. It's not going to make any sense. But if you read some of the material ahead of time, whether it's the slides or relevant information in the book or whatever your teacher provides, it's going to help out, okay? And the more you can do ahead of time, the better. There's a heavy independent study focus in science courses, okay? It's difficult to just show up to class and not study. All right. And if you look at material ahead of time and then follow up afterwards, that's really going to help you out. If you're given a study guide, and that's not a guarantee, okay? I don't know if I got any. I think I had a couple classes, like maybe my biochemistry class had a study guide. But in general, if I got a study guide, it was something that like I vaguely got off of other people or I made my own. Okay. But I would try to do those study guides as soon as possible. Try to answer them. Try to go through those questions and answer them as quickly as soon as possible. I mean, ideally, if you can try to start doing it before you even go to class, so that then when you're in class, you can start to like fill in the gaps or like fix things. That's better. That's going to be ideal. If you try to fill out the study guide and then you meet with your teacher during office hours to go over it, that's good. Don't just like give the study guide to them and say, hey, is this all good? Try to go in, and if there were things that you had difficulty finding, try to discuss with them. Hey, I had trouble finding this. Where can I find this? Can you help me go over this? Try to like different things that you wrote out, try to explain it to them. The goal is if you can teach the material to somebody else, then you know it well enough for a test. Okay, don't try to rely on multiple choice and hoping you recognize the word. That's a dangerous game. Okay. If you don't have a study guide, though, do not despair. There are ways to create your own study guide. At the beginning of a lot of sections in any textbook, they have what are called these objectives. And they're almost always going to be bullet points like this. And so you can make your study guide based off these. You have to, you got to know what chapters you're working with and what subject within the book. But then it gives you structure. It can help it, the material that seems vast, it can help you focus in on certain things. So like describe the structure and features of the nuclear membrane, list the contents of the nucleus, like try to go through and answer these, and you can make your own study guide. Honestly, a lot of teachers, study guides that they give you, they're just pulling the objectives out of the textbook, okay? It's what I do, and I know a lot of other teachers that do it, okay? So the study guide's there, it's just not, it just hasn't been transposed onto a Microsoft Word document or whatever for you to view easily, but it's in the textbook there, okay? Another thing to take advantage of is the chapter reviews or chapter summaries. Instead of reading an entire chapter, you can read the summary. It's going to be like 2 pages that covers an entire chapter. And this will help you just really focus in on what's the most important stuff. And then from there, you can start to expand out. Now, if you're given the slides, I would try to use the slides initially before kind of expanding out into the textbook itself. But even then, before you read through the slides, if you want to, just reading through the chapter summary, it kind of gives you a brief overview, okay? And it can kind of help take a lot of stuff that seems like, again, like it's a lot of material, and you can see it all consolidated, and it can hopefully make it less intimidating, okay? And it's at least a starting point for you, okay? And finally, use the Learning Commons, okay? Whether you take advantage of tutoring or not, just come in, you can study, you can occasionally ask us questions, whatever, okay? We're here to help me. We can even just direct you in the right direction. Teacher is always going to be the best first line, emailing them, going to their office hours. They're the ones writing the tests, they're the ones doing, making the assignments, doing the lecturing, providing the resources. But we are here to complement them as a secondary resource, okay? So, a little bit of content. Biology literally means study of life. Bio, life, ology, study of. There are different levels that biology can be, or different ways that biology can be studied, okay? Say we want to study animal biology versus plant biology versus fungus biology versus bacterial biology, okay? All those count. All those are examples of life. Technically, viruses are not living, okay? But you still might see it thrown in some biology classes, okay? But let's say we're thinking about just animals. There are different levels of organization that you can study an animal. A lot of courses are going to start at the smallest level. They're going to start at like the molecular or even the atomic level, kind of looking at the chemistry of life. Technically, none of those particles are living yet, but understanding the chemistry of life helps us to understand the higher levels of organization, which the next highest level of organization is going to be the cell. That is the smallest functional unit that could be considered living. There are a lot of what we call unicellular or one-celled organisms, like amoeba, different bacteria. There are even plants, plant cells that can be, or plants that can be unicellular, okay? So cell biology, I can guarantee you're going to look at cell biology. Most likely you're going to look at the chemistry of life and then move into cell biology, and then maybe look at some organ systems from there, okay? But in between cells and organ systems, there are a couple of different levels. You have tissues, which when you get a bunch of different cells that all perform a similar function, or a bunch of similar cells all performing same function, that's called tissue, okay? So like muscle cells, they're all performing the same function, so that's muscle tissue. Bone, like cells of your bone tissue, all very similar types of cells, all right? Different mucosal cells that provide mucosal lining in different parts of your body, one particular type of tissue. Now, take multiple different types of tissue that all perform a similar function in a similar area, and now that's going to be an organ. Like say in your stomach, you're going to have a muscle layer, you're going to have a mucosal layer, and then you're going to have different layers of lining on the outside and inside of the stomach that are called epithelium. Okay. And all of those together form the organ. Okay. Now, think about this organ and then the word organization. Okay. Our organisms are organized into different organ systems and different organs. Okay. So we'll have different organs perform a similar function, and then we can have multiple different organs within an organ system that perform similar functions to each other. Like, say, I use the stomach. We have oral cavity, then the esophagus, then the stomach, then the intestines, all part of the digestive system. Okay. Cardiovascular system, you got the heart and blood vessels. Okay. The veins and the arteries and everything in between. Okay. Carrying blood, different nutrients and gases and different materials throughout the body to and from the heart and the lungs. I got the nervous system, which is going to consist of the brain and the spinal cord and nerves coming in and out. And all that together forms the nervous system. Okay. But you have individual organs like the brain, different parts of the brain, and the spinal cord itself, the heart. All of these are individual organs that are parts of organ systems. So you might study things at the organ level, might study things at the organ system level. Then you might look at individual organisms themselves, like you might look at animals versus fungi versus protists versus plants. Okay. And those are organisms, like all the organ systems together, like our nervous system and our digestive system and our cardiovascular system and the reproductive system, all that together, all of that organization together forms an organism. We can go beyond that. We can look at how organisms within a particular population interact with each other. There's a good chance you might look at some population biology and whatever in your biology or your science course. Okay. You can look at the community level, which is how different species interact with each other that all kind of live in the same area, like how us as humans were interacting with the mosquitoes and the squirrels and the trees and so on within our similar living area, basically. And that's our community. Okay. So we can look at biology at the community level. We can take it a step further and we can integrate non-living factors like rocks, the geology, the rivers and lakes, the water bodies. Okay. A lot of the earth science type stuff. And that's going to be more of ecology, ecosystem based biology. Okay. And then you're probably not going to get to the level of biosphere just looking at the earth entirely. It's possible you might have a little section on that, but technically we could look at the entirety of all of the ecosystems across the entire globe and how they interact with each other. And that still would be considered part of biology. Okay. So we can go all the way from the atomic and molecular level, all the way up to the level of the entire Earth and all of the different ecosystems interacting with each other. Okay. And all this falls under the definition of biology. Any questions about anything here? I'm going to go ahead and stop